So how did that experience with you running the torch and all that stuff, how did that experience end you up in a direct beef with President John F. Kennedy's sister?
Well, I had designated that the money go to Pottstown, Pennsylvania. The Special Olympics in Pottstown, Pennsylvania just really took a special interest in the Hells Angels and in me in particular, because I designated the money to go to Pottstown after they started supporting us. They were verbally getting on the news and talking about Ventura Hells Angels and Hells Angels in general and how great we were. So at the bottom of the form, it said, where would you like your donation to go? And I wrote in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. And so I called up the Special Olympics there, and I said, our donation is coming to you guys specifically. You're getting it all. Do anything you want with the money. Best of luck to you from the Hells Angels. And the money never came. And finally, I called the Special Olympics, and they put me in touch with Sergeant Shriver. Now, I don't know if you know who Sergeant Shriver is. Sergeant Shriver was appointed by President Kennedy. He was the first leader in the Peace Corps. Remember the Peace Corps? You're kind of young, but...
Yes, I remember Peace Corps.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Sure, okay. Well, he was the first leader in the Peace Corps. And he had since retired from the Peace Corps, and along with Eunice Shriver, President Kennedy's sister, they headed the Special Olympics. And they got on the phone, and he goes, this is Sergeant Shriver from the Special Olympics. And I was kind of like, whoa. Well, I said, how you doing? And he goes, look, we're not sending that money to Pottstown. The money stays in Washington, D.C. He goes, you don't have the authority to designate where it goes. And I said, well, I've got to argue with you on that. I said, I signed the contract, and there was a specific line that said I could designate where my donation went. And I said, I sent it to Pottstown, Pennsylvania. And he goes, well, wait a minute. How would you like to talk to President Kennedy's sister? And I said, sure. So, she gets on the phone with me, and she goes, oh, George, I want to thank you for the donation from the Hells Angels. And, but, we're sorry to say you can't designate the money. It's not your job. It's our job is, doing the logistics where the money will go. She was being all flowery and nice to me. And she goes, look, you don't really want to fight the Kennedys, do you? And I said, well, I fight anybody that picks a fight with me. And I said, do you really want to fight with the Hells Angels? And she said, look, you're going to have to come back to Washington. And I knew a little bit about the law. I was kind of a frustrated lawyer. And I said, well, the contract was signed in Ventura. So that's where the lawsuit will take place. You're going to have to come to Ventura. I'm not going to Washington. And I said, do you really want to come to Ventura? And then she got kind of smart with me. And she said, I don't think you know who you're messing with. And I said, well, I don't think you know who you're messing with. And then I said, I'll see you in court. And we went to court. It took me like 5-6 years, but I won the case. The money finally and ultimately went to Pottstown, Pennsylvania. And I battled it out with the Kennedys. But
when it begins Camelot.
Yeah.
The royal family. Camelot. Right? In your book, Exile on Front Street, My Life as a Hells Angel and Beyond, you told a story about someone tossing a shrapnel grenade through the open door of your then motorcycle club. Would you walk us through that?
Well, yeah. Several weeks after the tour. Now, I'm getting some really positive press. I mean, press all over the world. And, of course, me being the smart ass and the big mouth I am, one of the last press conferences concerning the Olympics, I made a comment, and it really pissed people off in law enforcement. I said, now, isn't it a shame that the only incident at the Los Angeles Olympics was a police officer who planted a bomb and then found it to become a hero? One of the sheriffs planted a bomb,
I remember that.
And then discovered it and became a big hero in the media. And then they discovered it was his bomb. And he was just doing it for some media attention. And of course, I have to make a big deal out of it and how embarrassing for law enforcement. And, I'm being sarcastic. And so several weeks later, the front door is open to the clubhouse. It's about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. And a hand grenade was tossed in the clubhouse. Now, when I got down there, I got a phone call that a hand grenade went off in the clubhouse. And when I got down there, the spoon was laying in the doorway. And having been
explain to people what a spoon is.
Well, the spoon is attached to the grenade, and you pull a pin, and you throw the grenade, and the spoon has a spring on it. It pushes away, and it ignites the timer that detonates the hand grenade. So the spoon's laying in the doorway. So I asked one of the cops I knew, "Hey, can you get me the numbers off that spoon?" And the cop wrote the numbers down, handed it to me. I hired a private investigator, a former FBI agent who is now a private practice. He traced the numbers on the spoon back to an armory where the ATF unit had come from that was spreading the rumor that we were going to supply weapons to terrorists. And I got in the media and I made a accusation. The media asked me, he said, "Do you have any suspects in the hand grenading?" And I said, "Yeah, I got a lot of suspects." And I said, "The ATF's right at the top of the list." And it just opened another can of worms. And they told me to shut my mouth, or they were gonna somehow get even with me. And probably within 3 months, I was indicted, and that's that year I spent in fighting that case. They said I had ordered somebody's murder. It was just completely ludicrous. It was a big FBI sting. They pretended like the guy was dead, took him out of the prison yard. They said I ordered somebody's murder in prison. But it was, the whole thing was a masquerade by the FBI. And I was looking at life. If I would have got found guilty, I certainly would have been out by now, I'm sure, but could have wound up doing 15, 20, 30 years.
Right. So the ATF, at the time when that grenade went off inside the club, the particular team of ATF agents that were giving you this problem, giving y'all trouble, they were on the scene when, in the aftermath of this thing.
Within an hour, that ATF unit was on the scene. And, my allegations, I alleged, look, do I think the ATF sat down and had a meeting and said, "Okay, we're going to go hand grenade the Ventura Hells Angels clubhouse"? No, I don't think they did it as an organization. I think what we had were some rogue agents that didn't like my rhetoric. They didn't like what I was saying. And they threw that hand grenade in there. And it got them a warrant. We got a couple of guys that were felons. They weren't down there at the time, but there's a federal law, and I'm not sure you're aware of this.
Yes, I am.
Constructive possession. And two of the guys had keys to the clubhouse, and they got indicted for constructive possession, felon in possession of a weapon, constructive possession. And, the judge really didn't go along with it. They got found guilty. We took a court trial, and, we waived the jury and let the judge decide. And they both got found guilty, but they were very light sentences for a weapon, a felon in possession of a weapon. One was 6 months, and the other was 4 months, I think. That they did very limited time.
Right. But, so that was based upon the two shotguns that were hanging on the wall inside the club, correct?
That's correct. Legal shotguns.
Right. Two legal shotguns that were bought from like a local sporting goods store.
Big Five,
were hanging on the wall.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So they use this law to say that this is so that people have an understanding of what constructive possession is as opposed to actual possession.
Right.
So constructive possession is that they were in a environment where they would have access to these weapons because they had keys being that they had keys to the location that the weapons were in, they were basically, they had access to these weapons, could use these weapons.
I'll tell you what
felons, they couldn't do it.
Absolutely. I'll tell you how the judge explained it. He said, he told both of them men at sentencing, he goes, "Gentlemen, you could have been in New York City and the weapons could have been in the Ventura Clubhouse on Fixed Way. And if you would have had possession of those keys in New York City, you'd still be guilty of constructive possession because you had access to the weapons." So, it's just wild,
Insane. That's insane. That's insane.
It really is. And, it's interesting when I was in Spain getting ready to shoot, I'd sold the book rights. I have a book called Marked, and I'd sold the rights to a production company. And when I was in Spain, part of the publicity was a character I was going to play. I had a machine gun, then I had a pistol with a silencer on it. And people were writing me going, are I going to get busted for posting these pictures on social media, even though I'm in Spain, because I'm a felon in the United States? And, my position was, well, first of all, they got to prove that they're not dummy guns. They aren't prop guns. But, I think some of the cops probably got their gander up a little bit. They go, "Oh, there he is with guns. We got pictures." But,
they're doing that. They're definitely doing. They're using social media in that capacity.
No, they check it every day.
Yeah.
Check.
So the spoon, the significance of the spoon on the grenade. The spoon had the numbers that you asked the cop you knew to get.
It had a lot number.
Right.
And that lot told number had been stolen from an armory in Akron, Ohio. They'd stolen a whole lot. And the same lot number was the where the ATF was stationed in Akron, Ohio. So it just too many ties together. It was very suspicious.
Enough that would have gotten y'all convicted if it were on your side. That much correlation, coincidence were on your side.
And how many friends have you seen convicted of circumstantial evidence?
That's a fact.
Yeah, you get strong circumstantial evidence, man. You're going to wind up doing some time if you don't present it properly.
Right. So that discovery of that spoon originating at an Akron, Ohio location where the ATF were based, and that particular team that was outside of the incident an hour after it happened to be from, that led to you at some point presenting a lawsuit against them, against the ATF.
We did. We did present a lawsuit. One of the guys that got hurt pretty bad, David, had some injuries, but it died a slow death. We never got it off the ground. It's pretty hard to sue the federal government. It's it's a very steep hill, and it's a slippery slope, and it really never got off the ground. I felt we had everything we needed to do it, and maybe in today's environment we could pull it off. But back then, I would tell people of these antics that the federal government would pull, and people didn't believe it. They just think, well, the government doesn't operate like that. Well, reevaluate that situation, because they do operate that way, and it's pretty evident in the modern world of what transpires. A lot of shady shit going on.
Yeah, because there's humans involved.
That's right.
Right. And absolute power corrupts absolutely.
That does.